All right. I am unashamedly a tree hugger. I'm not scared to say that. I reached an age where it's like when you start talking to people, it used to be you talked about, someone had a new baby, someone had a new job. Now it's what funeral are you going to, who died, and I'm probably not the only one like that. But I love to be outside. After some major surgeries, I had to go out and do exercise and do things like that. The doctor said you need to stay active. We have a nice park in Fairview, started there. And with ham radio, getting more involved, Williamson County Aries sent out an email, I don't remember when, but it must have just been everybody that was in the database, but it was basically, you needed volunteers. And I said, you know what, I'm ham radio. I've forgotten about that, haven't done anything, I'm only a technician. Matter of fact, my first 15 or 20 activations were just 10 meters because I wasn't a general yet. So, and 10 meters, as you know, is only works well generally during the day. So, one of the other things I did while I was doing that was become a Tennessee naturalist because it just really interested me. They cover about 10 to 12 areas, things like geology, amphibians, mammals, all the different categories of outside, trees, fauna, flora. They have different categories for it, and it was fun. I did mine at Owls Hill. There's like 12 chapters throughout Tennessee. I did mine at Owls Hill, and basically what it does is just get you trained and generalized understanding of all these areas, and you take it upon yourself to, what are your favorites? Mine is birds. I love ornithology. I also love cedar glades. We'll mention a little bit of that in here. So I came across this saying, I don't remember where I was on the internet, and all that I am I owe to the Air Force. And when I saw that, it kind of pricked me a little bit, and I thought about that, and I'm like, wow, that's kind of true. I was born in an Army hospital on a Marine Corps base at Okinawa, where my dad was stationed at the Air Force Base, but worked at a separate facility because he was in intelligence. And when my dad died, my mom brought this box out of the closet and handed it to me, and he said, "You need to keep this now." And I said, "What is it?" And it's every piece of paperwork he kept in the Air Force when he was in. And I never knew he had a top secret clearance. He was in intelligence, and it turned out, that is my dad right there. And he went in 1958, and he went in as a radio intercept operator. He was a Diddy-bop, Morse code intercept operator. Never knew it. It's top secret. He couldn't talk about it. He worked in facilities that had one door in. There was no egress. You had to go in the same door you went out. They always had a furnace running because if something happened and you had to get rid of everything, the furnace was centrally located. Everybody knew what to grab and throw in the furnace in case they were overrun for whatever reason. So that picture on the left, that is me. That's the first time my dad used to brag. That's not my dad. That's one of the other enlisted guys. First Little League on the island of Crete. And you'll notice, and I'm growing up as a kid, I never worry about it. It's just part of what your life is. I mean, I'm on the island of Crete. That's the Mediterranean behind there. And you can tell what that is, right? There's an antenna field right next to the ball field. And to us, it was just part of life. So that was my dad doing radio intercept there in Crete. And there's the actual facility. And right there is the compound. That little white long building is the compound. This whole facility, that's the size of it. It's technically not even an Air Force base. It's an air station. They don't even have a runway or a plane. All they did was intercept Morse code. The other thing that I owe to the Air Force is I met that girl right there, who's sitting right there. Had to embarrass her a little bit. First time I saw her in fatigues, you can ask her. She wouldn't stay away from me. She wouldn't stop pestering me. She followed me home that's really backwards. It was me. But that was how I met her. She was in intelligence. I don't know why intelligence kept being around me, but she was in intelligence, got out of it, got into finance, so I went ahead and married an Army girl. And what she does that's related to what I do with Tennessee Natural is she was in the Master Gardener program. That is literally the real estate picture of our house when we moved in Fairview. And this is what she's done 30 years later. So, like I said, we take it to heart. There's a lot of things going on there that make that a native, it's actually certified native area. How you layer, if you're hunters, you know about edges. Edge management for hunters is how you have the edges of forests and use it for planting and doing stuff for deer. But there's edges there, so there's all kinds of stuff there that basically try to make your yard look like nature. So I've got about 300 birds identified that have landed in the front yard. All right, so here's what we're doing. There's a little saying there at the bottom that I have never forgotten in over, I want to say 40 years now, that I learned in NCO Academy when I was in. Tell them what you're going to tell them, then tell them what you told them. So this is me telling you what I'm going to tell you. We're going to talk about equipment, what it takes to make up portable gear and why, environment, where do we do POTA, exploration, do your research before you go, and enjoyment, how to make this fun. If this weren't fun, I wouldn't be doing it, unless it's, emergency component to it. But I use POTA to help me with Williamson County ARES. I mean, I use POTA to figure out how am I going to get all my equipment as compact to where this is everything. 22 pounds, I grab this bag and I can do HF anywhere. There's 2 antennas in it and everything I need is right in that bag. I just grab it and go. So these are the things I want to talk about. And one more, Elmer's. Since getting active again, one of the clubs I was in Nashville doesn't exist anymore. It used to be called Rats. Do y'all remember Rats? I missed that club, but I don't know, it just went away. So the Elmers I'm doing now pretty much are all online. And these are some of them that, Wave Talkers is a really cool one. Every Sunday at 3 o'clock, Wave Talkers is our equivalent in LA. Can you imagine the size of LA's ARES and what they use and do? It's anyway. They meet every Sunday, and the most important part about that is after whatever the talk is, they have just a rag chew. And it has gone for 4 hours, it has gone for 30 minutes. And I've learned more in that than you would believe. Another one, Coffee and Ham Radios, that just caught my attention because I'm a coffee nut. I roast my own beans. I like good, fresh coffee. ABR Industries, they make coax. Probably a lot of y'all have heard of ABR. I think they're in Georgia, if I remember right. Texas? Oh, I thought it was Georgia. And in Ham Radio Tube, another one that I follow. And then, so that's the Elmers I've used, and then doing the POTAs. So first thing is equipment. These are all the pieces that I had to deal with. The blue ones are obvious. Those are ones you have to have. You have to have a radio, you have to have power to that radio, and you have to have an antenna to receive and send. But then there's all this other stuff, amplifier, tuner, power hub, controller, solar panel. Do you even need a controller and solar panel to do POTA? No. But remember, I'm using POTA to also help train myself in emergency possibilities. And then there's all the extra stuff that comes along with this, like for the radio, stands, speakers, fans, headset, external PTT, noise filter. Do I need an amplifier? Am I going to just do QRP? Do I need a tuner? Can I use a radio that has a tuner? My amplifier is actually what has the tuner in it, and it's a good one. Antenna, you're going to use vertical, coil, multi-frequency. Will the location matter and what antenna you use? And then power, and this was the newest one for me, it was LiFePO 4. Only a year ago, I didn't even know that existed. So you use a lead battery, LiFePO 4, which is lithium iron phosphate. Are there other batteries that I don't know about? How many amp hours? Charger, how do you charge it? What do you use for a hub? How do I manage connections? And then controller is, well, I have to have a controller for the solar panel. Which one do I get? How does that work? And solar panel. So all this stuff is more equipment that comes into play. And then I always fall back on my military training. One of the things you always do is where are your single points of failure? Where are the places where, you know what, if this doesn't work, if I forget it or it breaks, everything's done. So some things you can't help it. I mean, unless you want to carry 2 radios, your radio is obviously a single point of failure. But all the other stuff, I'll never forget me and Joanne going to Bicentennial Park in downtown Nashville, all excited it's going to be a twofer because they have Trail of Tears there as well that goes through it. All set up, ready to go. I went to grab the mic to plug into the radio, and guess what? I forgot the mic. I took it out because I had bought a new one, was going to test it, and I never put it back in the bag. So I'm sitting there. I have all this equipment, and by the way, it's one of the last things I do when I set up. I have the antenna set up, I have everything set up, looking great, ready to go, and I have no freaking mic. I'm done. I mean, unless y'all know some trick on how to make a mic real quick, I don't. So single points of failure, guess what? I now have 2 mics in different locations in that bag, not just one. This was my initial startup. I heard a lot about this G90. I love this radio. It's small, it's compact. I got a used one, saved even more. And then later came the amplifier, the XPA 125, that takes it up to 125 watts, which can really help from 20 if you want to make further away contacts. And you'll notice other equipment, like right there, that's what connects them 2 together. And then, of course, there's your hub, and we'll talk a little bit about those as well. The CE19, DE19, again, that's this little piece right there. Basically what that does is when you cable the radio and the amplifier together with that piece, the amplifier changes based on what band you change, okay? And I think a lot of amplifiers, again, I'm still sort of new at this, a lot of amplifiers will detect it and do that automatically, right? This one doesn't. You have to have that cable for it to do that. This is how I packed it all, a Nanook 935. This is a $300 case. We go to auctions, and I got it for $30 in Clarksville. Fit perfect, got it all tucked in there. Now granted, you know, the nice thing is it had a handle and wheels. Now granted, that we're now looking at something that I'd never weighed it, but it had to be 80 to 100 pounds, that whole thing. But it had wheels, and if you're doing if you've ever heard picnic table POTA, basically, there's not a picnic table, you're not doing it. It's like, we got to find a picnic table. And I will do that. I always use picnic table if they have it, but if they don't, we just pop the tailgate down, and I have a collapsible chair and do it right off the back of the truck. So that's the initial setup. And for a battery, because that didn't include battery, there was no battery in that setup, was this. I got it just because it's got 2 50 amp connectors on it. It's got connections over there, and it's just a portable battery box that, you know, a little bit of research, that's what I found. Put 2 batteries in it. This is a Redodo. I like Redodo. That's one of my favorite ones. You notice that's a mini, so it fits in there along with this one. That's just a cheap Chinese, I guess they're probably all Chinese batteries. That's just a early one I got. I don't use that one anymore. I got it because it had that voltage meter already built in on the top. But both of those 2 batteries went in that case, so if one got used up, I just plug into the other one. By the way, I've never run down a 100 amp hour battery, because I always charge them in time, it doesn't matter. This is what I finally settled on. This is what's sitting in that bag now. The top one there is 12 amp hours, and it fits perfectly. We'll see when I show you the setup. Fits in there perfectly, and the 6 amp hour is the backup that's in the other area. So those are the batteries that I use. Bioenno, I didn't pick it because it was a great battery. It is a very good battery. I picked it because it was dependable, and I love those Anderson power pole connections already built into it. I don't have to build one. I don't have to buy another cable. It's just ease of use. This is not a controller, but I put it here because I used to use it. It's a watt meter and power analyzer, And I used to use that for when I plugged it in and started my POTA. When I was all finished, I could read how many amp hours I used in that session. I know I've got a 12 amp hour battery. I know I just used 1.5, so I'd mark that on my log sheet, and I could keep track over time how many amp hours have I used. Turns out that didn't become a big deal because I charged it after every 2 or 3 POTAs anyway, so it didn't matter. It really doesn't matter. But I did settle on this. It's a buddy pole. It's a lot better, and it allows other things. USB, solar panel, now I can connect to it. And it's kind of its own hub because there's 2 connections there on the right. I hit the wrong one. Hold on. There's 2 connections there on the right for load 1, load 2, so it's kind of its own little hub. And so I've started using that just to keep track of where I'm at. Like on field day, I noticed I've already used 2/3 of my battery, so I got another one and hooked it up. Power hub and cables. So you got all this stuff, how I'm going to hook it up for power. Anderson power pole is obviously what I settled on. I don't know, is there even a competing technology to this? Because I haven't heard of anyone speaking about one. So everything is Anderson power pole. I probably have every cable. I've either made it or bought it to figure out can I use it? What do I need it for? And there's more there. That's the bottom half of that bag, and I keep that bag for anything. Generally, that bag is more helpful for someone that forgot something that's around than really for me, to be honest. It's just the collection. I mean, how much stuff do y'all collect and have around that, it's like, I'm not throwing that away. I'll probably never use it, but it's a solution looking for a problem. And then the most important part on this was I bought the tools that now I can make my own. I don't have to buy them. Learned something new too is, for instance, that the cable there's stiff cable, and I don't know how to tell the difference. I don't think it's gauge, but I don't know. There's a cable that's real stiff, and you almost have to bend it to get it to work. This stuff is so solid, you can literally tie that in 16 knots, and it still works fine. I guess it's just the gauge. Number of strands, and then I couldn't figure out which way, because I hate ordering this wire, and when you hook it to the radio and hook it to something else, it's like stiff, and it's just, so I make my own, and it's much more pliable and easier to use. Added this to the G90. Boys like their toys, but what I thought cool about this was the G90 doesn't come with an Anderson power pole connection, but this was a stand. I could hook it to it. I connect the radio to that white part right there, and then it's automatically ready with the power pole Anderson power pole next to it. Okay, so it helped with I have a stand and I have a fan to keep it warm or keep it cool when I'm using it. It does heat up if you use it for a couple hours. Hub. First hub I got was this one. You always overbuy. I mean, do I need that? Do I need 8? Now, maybe in an exercise or someone set up next to me and we hook it up to a 200, 300 amp hour battery and you want everybody to use it, yeah. I've never had that happen yet, but I got that one first just because I wanted to have the best solution. I tried this one. The only difference between that and this is you only have one breaker, but you can turn them on and off. I thought that was kind of cute. That was probably an impulse buy because I've never used it. Just never used it. Again, this is part of ham radio. I like to try things, learn things. Even though I'll probably never use it, I still like to learn doing it. First antenna was the Buddy Stick Pro. And as you can see, the reason why, I don't even use the bag because that is in that. Okay? And I could take all those pieces out. It fits in very easily. And that Buddy Stick Pro has been a great antenna. I'm not using it right now. I can, but I'm learning wire antennas right now. I've moved. These are so easy to set up. They don't take much real estate. I didn't want to do wire antennas because I see all these episodes of people putting stakes in the ground, getting stuff up in trees, and unfortunately, a lot of park rangers, when you start throwing in trees, they don't like it. So I stayed away from that. But now I've learned about mass, carbon-based mass, and slopers, and That's currently what I'm playing with and learning. Again, I'm basically a technician who just became a general in learning all this and using POTA to help me through it. So that was my first antenna. The second one, I love Chameleon. God, they're expensive. So you find used or... This is a tactical delta loop. I use this next on POTAs because I heard a lot of good talk about it, and those are telescoping masts, 17 feet, one here, one there, and then a wire going across, and you just tune it. And that is the antenna I used on winter field day and got 550 contacts. I literally love this antenna for HF. And you'll see later, I mean, it was 20 feet in the air. This is one of the setups. There's the Chameleon behind it. I'm using I think that one's a 50. Does it say on there that you can read? Yes, that's a 50 amp hour. It's a little bit smaller, easier to carry, but there's the amplifier and the G90. And there, I actually did use it, didn't I? That's the on-off one. Like, you really need 8 switches for two things. Anyway, learning. And there it is when I was doing a POTA, when I was testing equipment right before field day. So basically I was using a folder. I was doing a POTA. This is Montgomery Bell State Park. It's only 12 miles from my house in Fairview. And I was setting up the POTA to test for field day. So there's the Chameleon's gear. That's all Chameleon equipment. You ride your tire over that little stand. You put the 20-foot mast in, raise the antenna up, and it worked great. And some things are as simple as, you know, I'm old. I don't get in and out of trucks. There's no, you know, that's a little bought on Amazon. It's permanently attached to the tailgate. It folds up back onto the tailgate and has a strap that holds it in place, so it makes it easy for me to get in and out of the back of my truck. My wife likes it too. She uses it. So some gear is not just ham radio related per se. So that was my first iteration of doing POTAs. I was overdoing it, large equipment. Some spots I couldn't do because I couldn't get to them because, you know, 80-pound thing on wheels. So that was the first iteration. The second one is, and again, this bag isn't even made anymore. They just came out with a new upgrade of it, supposedly. It's a black bag. I brought it if anyone wants to look at it. But this bag isn't even made anymore. I still like this bag better than the black one, I think. And like I said, I have no dog in this hunt with gigaparts, but I fell in love with this bag just because by accident, how all this stuff worked together. But this is their Explorer module backpack system. And you can see all the setup there, and I wanted to show you how this works. So basically, this bag right here that I just showed you earlier, I lay it down on the picnic table, and I just unzip. There's 2 zippers on the back of the top there. I zip down this side and the back side. Roll off the top. This whole thing opens up, which, by the way, we learned this bag you can buy for only $30. It's the same exact bag. It's a first aid bag. Gigaparts is using a first aid bag that you can get for $30 from China. So I got this as a backup, but again, the nice thing about it is how this works. And like I said, I fold that all the way out, fold it back on itself. The top half is antenna wiring. Those are radios. That's the coax to the antenna. Pop that down. There's the parts. Now this is a JPC 12 antenna. That's one of the next antennas I tried. I did a lot of POTAs with that antenna and really enjoyed it. It worked well because I didn't have to do anything. You didn't have to tune, didn't have to do anything. I had it all set up, put it on 20 meters, run and go. There's the back side that's flopped down. Those are the rest of the antenna with the tripod. I use a tripod instead of a stake because, like for instance, at Stones River National Battlefield, I just did a twofer there a week ago, or was it 2 weeks? I can't remember. 1 week, thank you. My Google's right over there. And the head ranger there, he won't even let you put a stake in the ground. Because it's a national battlefield, I guess. I don't know. that you're not allowed to, you know, obviously to metal detect or anything like that. You can't even bring on a metal detector. So I don't use a stake. I use a tripod for all the antennas that I set up, except for the wire antennas, obviously. So that's just the base. There's the rest of it. And for me, that literally takes 2 minutes to set up. That's the reason I use that antenna. It just takes 2 minutes. There's the, this is called a kitchen sink wire winder. It's the best winder I've ever found. It's one of those, I never realized in ham radio I'd spend so much time on Etsy for stuff. I don't know how many stuff for them from Etsy. But that's what I use to wind the coax. Now, these packets inside of the bag are for radios. So that packet right there on the right is for a radio. I don't remember what it was. It's long and thin, and you'll notice though on the back of it there's a Anderson power pole sticking out, because what's actually in there is that 12 amp hour battery. Fits it perfect. Again, this is another reason I like this backpack. That just sits in there. I zip it shut, and that battery thing the Anderson power pole just sticks out, ready for something to connect, that's a parts bag on top. We pull that off and move it out of the way. And then this one is the power hub and controller. I just simply put the Power Mini 2 to the battery, then take the hub. You notice the hub has how many connections now? I'm not carrying that 8 hub switch thing anymore. It's just a simple hub. You can plug the power to any port on there and then plug the rest into any other port in it, and it works great. I have changed this a little bit. I don't like these connections because they work good when you put them in, but they're tight. They're really tight. When you're constantly pulling them in and out, you know, it was just a hassle. It's tight, and I know it's a minor thing. I finally got an adapter that plugs into that and stays plugged into it. And the other end's an Anderson power pole, so it's just easy. Anderson power pole is so easy to go in and out. So the next thing is the larger bag. That is for, I don't know what kind of radio it was, but it's you can see the size of the bag. That looks like one of your typical box radios, I guess. ICOM, Yaesu, I don't remember which one. I could look it up, but anyway. That's where all the other stuff goes. You can see, what's the first thing you see, by the way, when you open it? I'm telling you, I'll never forget that. That was also one of the days the Nazi group was marching. Oh, I never thought I'd see that, but yeah, that was a fun day. These are the coolest things. They're not related to ham radio whatsoever, but they're called Domke protective wraps. Since, like what I showed you, since that's just an open area and all that stuff's going in there, well, guess what? It can kind of bang around against each other. These are wraps that just open up. You put anything you want inside and then just Velcro it shut. Because the outside of it, that's Velcro. Anything can Velcro to that. So I use those to pack up the radio there, it's the bottom left, and then the amplifier that's there on the bottom right. And then you look inside, there's the backup battery, there's an SWR meter in the back, there's even a tuner if I ever need it, which I've never used the tuner. That's the small battery that I keep in there. It's only 6 amp hour. This is an FX4CR. That's my current radio I'm using. I love this little radio. I've got all my bands, 80 to 6, I think it does. It does 20, I'm drawing a blank, 20 watts. And it's just so easy to use. The sound is great on it. This is the guy, I don't know if anybody use this radio? Really? Wow. This is the guy. I don't know if he lives in China. He is Chinese. He makes them in China. They're an incredibly good radio. It's a quality radio, and he makes them. He just sent me his next one that something didn't work in it. He's going to go evaluate and find out what. So that's how good he is. I mean, send it back to San Diego, and he's going to take a look at it. And it's a Generation 3. This is a neat little thing that I found and added, and the radio, because it doesn't have any kind of stand or anything, these you just buy on Amazon and connect them, and you've got instant legs. You can stick them on anything. I put them on the radio so it stands up. I also put it on the little micro PA50 Plus power amplifier. That takes my 20 to 50, basically. It's small, it's easy to carry, and it gives me 50 watts out instead of just 20. So that's the final setup. There it is with the logging. But literally, I just open the backpack and it's a little office desk. It literally is just a little office desk. Okay? And you can arrange all those things. These are all separate. You can pull that off. You can pull that off. They're all underneath. There is the I don't know what you call that part of the Velcro. It's the what's the hook and something? What is it called? Loop. Hook and loop. So I guess that's the loop part is what you're hooking it to. So you can set this up any way you want. I don't know what your setup is, and it doesn't have to be these. These were all bought from Bigger Parts. The black one, I've got stuff in here that is, again, I just got this 2 days ago. I mean, I'm just buying stuff on Amazon and I'm going to try it. They're inexpensive, but this is one that you just Velcro it on there, however you want to do it. You design your little office desk on how you want to do your radio. And there's no right or wrong. I'm not saying this is the right way to do it, the wrong way to do it. This is just how I do it, what I've learned over time and how I set it up. And right now I might try the black one and do a little different configuration, but I'm so used to this that literally when I get out of my car and set up on the picnic table, I'm ready to go in 15 minutes. I mean, the longest time is really the antenna. Just running the wire. Logging, I used to do paper logging. I still have it set up and do it. I've gotten kind of lazy. I do everything now with Ham2K has this Polo. Anyone use Polo? Really? Oh, thank you. One person. Polo is it works on your iPhone. I don't know if it works on the Google phones. I don't know. But it is incredible. It's easy to use. All I need is my iPhone. I have it anyway. It's quick to set up. You notice across the top there, this is what I'm currently doing. There's spots. I can look at a map and see everything I'm doing. But the spots is cool because depending on what POTA I'm doing, a lot of times I will get to a site and start a POTA and I don't even set up on a frequency. I just go to spots. I get my 10 contacts for a POTA to be activated by simply doing a park to park. I have had POTAs that are nothing but park to parks. Not a single QSO where they contacted me. So, and there you see on the right is the spots. Those are everybody that has spotted, and I just have to go to that frequency and try to talk to them. There's the map portion. And then this is simply where when you're all done, the part I like is I export the log files and put them instantly on my cloud. So I'm done. I don't have to worry about, I have another copy. I have what's in my iPhone. I have now what's on the cloud. And the final setup, she always comes with me. You notice she finds the sunspot. She's reading. And I don't know how many times she's just having fun. She'll say, thank you, thank you, thank you. You know, she's heard it so many times on the weekend. But she likes getting out too. It's just, like I said, I want to be outside. I spend 8 to 10 to 12 hours a day sitting behind a screen doing Linux. You know, I love it, I enjoy it, but I got to get away. When my wife gets home from work, she says, well, you want to get out, don't you? She says, absolutely, let's go do something. So environment, where do we do POTA? I hope I'm not running long. This is the map that has, this is on the POTA.app site. There's the map of Tennessee, and all those yellow points are places you can do POTA. And it can confuse you here when you first start. Like, anybody done a POTA in Cheatham Wildlife Management Area? Cheatham is huge. There's so many places you could do a POTA in Cheatham. It's huge. That yellow dot for Cheatham County is just the geographic center of Cheatham, WMA. And what I like to do is ahead of time do my research and find unique places to do it. Most WMAs I do off the back of my truck. So doing your research, we'll talk about that later, is this map shows you all the spots where you can do your POTA. And this is the only little bit I'm going to talk about rules, and that is you have to be, the location has to be open with public access, and it has to be on the list. And yes, I have gone to a location, set up, and realized when I went to pick the location in my app, it's not a location. All the WMAs are not in the system. No, they're not. I learned the hard way. I assumed they're all in there, and it wasn't. So the activator and all the equipment must be within the boundary and on public property. And remember that public property, because everything's public property. I wanted to do some Trail of Tears POTAs. They go all the way up through Centerville, the Trail of Tears. You can go into Centerville and do a POTA with Trail of Tears, because the Trail of Tears goes through it. But you can't do it in a parking lot of a restaurant. Yes, you're literally 50 feet from it, but you can't do that. It has to be public property. I didn't realize that. So you can actually activate sort of a city park. If that city park's on Trail of Tears, you're actually activating Trail of Tears. But a city park is public. So it has to be public. So I learned that lesson a little bit. Activations, you can have 2-fers, 3-fers. I have one 3-fer I know about. There might be more. I just know of one. We'll see that later. And I learned this one. The new day does not start at midnight in POTA. New day starts at 7 p.m. Central Time for us, which is 0 Zulu time, or I don't know, what do they call it now? I'm so used to Zulu from the military.
UTC.
UTC, thank you. Safety. I picked this site. This was a state forest I did. Most state forests are just a little tiny sign. You pull in and you're in the woods. This one was neat. It had a trailhead, it had messages and information there. It had, look, it had a picnic table. This is cool, okay? So I'm all excited. I get set up, and about 10 minutes into the activation, something bites me on the leg. Then another one. And then after 4 bites, I realized, what is going on? Guess what's under that picnic table? Wasps. We're in nature, guys. I mean, I just never dawned on me, maybe you should look under that picnic table and make sure you're okay. And guess what? There's not a wasp nest there anymore. Because I'm going to do my POTA. We emptied a can of bug spray for your arms, you know. I emptied a can on that thing and crushed it, and I did my POTA. I was not going to not do the POTA, but yeah, I had 4 wasp stings on my leg from that, so that was interesting. So safety is important. Now I made these. These are real, but I don't know. The initials I just use because it's easier for me. But in the state, we can do a POTA currently. Okay, and there's one weird one that I just found out. My grandson lives in Woodbury, but the bulk of them are wildlife management areas, WMAs. There's 99 of them. I love doing these because you don't know what you're going to see or find. We did one that was in a forest, and we got to the top of the forest, and the view was absolutely incredible. Popped down my back of my truck. I love doing WMAs, if not more than state parks, because state parks are state parks. They're great. I love them. But WMAs, if you want to be out in wildlife, away from people, WMAs are kind of, generally they're hunting areas. But we'll talk about it a little bit. So this is what it's all broken down to that we have here in the state. Some of these, State Trail, I haven't seen that one yet. I haven't gone to those locations yet. The newest one I just did was this, there's 3 state fishing lakes now. State fishing lakes? Right there. There's 3 of them. And they had to have been just added because you'll see later, I keep track of all this stuff. I'm an IT guy. I like data. So they just popped up. It's like, where did that come from? This is national. There are 24 areas we can do that are national. I still don't know the difference between a national battlefield and a national military park. They're just Civil War battlefields. But those are the different things you can go there. National Forest. Well, I didn't mention this Jim Cummings Park. It is not a WMA. It is not a state park. It's owned by the state parks, but it's just a city park named after Jim Cummings, who was a famous politician in that area. It's run down, but it's on the POTA list.
About 15 minutes more?
Yeah, well, I'll speed up then. These are some twofers, National Battlefield. This is Stone Rivers and Trail of Tears. Trail of Tears and Natchez Trace Parkway. It's called She Boss. A lady that ran a tavern there was married to an indigenous person, and whenever someone asked him a question and he didn't know English, he would say, She Boss. I'm serious, that's what they say, and he said, She Boss. So.
It's a three.
What's the third one?
The Parkway, the Scenic Trail, and the Trail of Tears goes through that.
Oh, I'll have to look at that. I thought it was just two, yeah. David Crockett has a Trail of Tears. This is the only threefer I've done. Chickasaw State Park. If you read there, it says State Forest, State Park, and Wildlife Management Area. There's where I did it. It was a pavilion. That was a pavilion POTA with a picnic table. Exploration. Do your research before you go. This has saved me several times. I'm old school. I always have an atlas in the car. It's in the truck right now, right between me and Joanne where we sit. And GPS can be wrong. GPS can be, you're going to this location. I don't know how many times we've gone to locations and it is not it. This is a backup, but we found WMAs that we didn't see anywhere else for some reason. I don't know why, but anyway. So doing your research beforehand, obviously, click on that yellow dot. You'll see a more info come up. Click on that more info, and it'll take you to another map. But that's a starting point where you want to go when you're doing your research. The biggest thing I use is TWRA has a web app viewer for all their WMAs, where they're at, where the boundaries are, so you know you're in it. Okay, I use that religiously. This is what it comes up looking. Those are all the areas that have WMAs. This I zoomed in on just to show you. Anybody know what that is? Percy Priest. The red areas are areas where you're not allowed to hunt. So if you use that map and you wanted to go somewhere where there's no hunting and be safe, sort of, kind of, I've never had an issue. You go to the red areas, but all that green, anywhere in that green, you can zoom in and find a spot, which is what I do here. You notice that zoomed in, it's the red area, and they had Jefferson Springs Recreation Area. This is an absolute beautiful spot. It's in the WMA, and it has 15 to 20 picnic tables and a beautiful view, obviously, of the river right there. Google Maps, I use this religiously because for the longest time I was trying to do Radnor Lake State Park. You can't find parking unless you're doing it in the car. A lot of guys do this totally from the car. I don't. I want to get out. That's the whole point. I couldn't find parking half the time, and there's no picnic tables that I could find. Okay, so I looked at the map and researched, and you notice this little overlap. It crosses this road, and I'm going, what could I do right in there? This is where I get a little creative. When I use Google Maps and zoom into the street view, there's this big area here on the side of the road with that sign there telling you this is a Radnor Lake. And guess what I did? Pulled over with the truck. You notice it's relatively safe. This is 30 mile an hour. And I just popped the truck down on the back and did my POTA right there. I'm in the boundary, so I'm legal. That's how I did it. I do it a lot of times on other places, but that's how I do Radnor Lake. That is also the only time I've ever had an issue, and I won't speak much to it, but someone kept driving by in a car real slow with their camera, their phone, taking a picture of me. So I said, I got to get my tin, because there's probably going to be a policeman showing up saying, what are you doing? And I wouldn't have no problem explaining to them, this is what I'm doing POTA. I have pamphlets in there that I can give them, and this is what I'm doing. I'm just on the side of the road, it's public, so. Anyway, nothing happened, but it's just, that's the only time I got close to anything being weird. Avenza maps, I love these because almost all of the state natural areas in WMAs, they have maps like this that you can download for free. The Avenza app is free, and what's neat about it is when you start the Avenza app and you bring up this, it literally shows you, because it's geocoded, it literally shows you when you're looking at the map where you're at. So I know I'm in the boundaries. And this was a spot that was particularly hard because there's nowhere to go in the boundaries. The parking's on the other side over here. I ended up doing it, guess what? I looked at the boundary. I found a spot right up here. So there's the parking on the right. I could have done the parking. I was going to just back up in that parking spot. See the grass behind it? Easy peasy. But guess what? I don't know, but according to the map, the parking is not in the boundary. But they have their sign there. So I don't know. I didn't worry about it. I ended up going, I found that spot, but that's a street view picture. When we were there, a state ranger was parked in there. I don't know if he was sleeping or taking lunch or whatever, but I couldn't park there. I ended up finding this spot with the sign, and I just pulled in there and did the POTA. These are maps that I do myself. Almost everything in Tennessee and all this stuff we see, you can download this geographical data and make your own maps. The blue ones are all the ones showing POTAs that I've imported to this Google map. The ones with trees on them that are greenish, olive color, are ones I've done. So you can kind of see I've done mostly in the middle. I'm starting to spread out. I've reached a point of I've done everything within 2 hours, except for one. More than 2 hours drive, it's like you might as well spend the night, kind of. You're spending all your time driving. This one is another map I keep. Again, this is me being an IT guy. They're all numbered. They're all the POTAs I've done. And what's neat about these is they show the location. So this is all the ones I've done in Montgomery Bell. And I've marked, geotag each location. So I can even share it with people and say, hey, this was a great spot. This was a great spot. And there it is, zoomed in even further. Down there at the bottom is a picnic table. They just made new picnic tables there. It's a great spot. And once I did it in the pavilion here with the antenna out here when it was raining. So when you explore, these are the things I'm using. I always have my gazetteer. I use TWA land maps. Those are already made. Google Maps, I use Street View. Avenza Maps is really good when you're there and you want to find a spot. And me on number 5, I make my own. So this is the last part. Promise I'm going to finish up. What's in a name? This is the enjoyment part. This is what I do. Sorry. This is what I do. Devil's Backbone State Natural Area. First thing Devil's Backbone. Why is it called that? Why? For me, it's fun to research. And why is it a state natural area? If you know anything about state natural areas, they are protected areas for a reason. There's something in that area that the state wants to preserve, protect for a reason. It's usually endangered plants, but it's something. Or old forest. There's something in there that the state has decided this is worth saving. Vesta Cedar Glade. I'm a huge Cedar Glade guy. I go to Cedar Glades religiously. Slacked off a little bit, but hope to get back to doing it. Frozen Head. Why is it called Frozen Head? Montgomery Bell. Who's Montgomery Bell? That's a lot of history on him. I like Montgomery Bell. It's a large. Mingo Swamp. There's an interesting one. I'm guessing it's a swamp. It was, and we did one of the nicest hikes I ever had was at Mingo Swamp. Okay. Vesta, I picked it. It's a very cool natural area in Wilson County. It has cedar glades, barrens, a cedar hardwood forest. It's got a lot of limestone outcropping, and it's noteworthy because it has the Tennessee coneflower that used to be thought was extinct. We'll talk about it a little bit more later. There's some other stuff there down below that's also indigenous there. This lady, Elsie Quarterman, anyone heard of her? Oh, please tell me someone's heard of Elsie Quarterman. We have a state natural named of it. It's one of the spots you can do a POTA. That's the only one I haven't done that's right here in Middle Tennessee. I haven't done it yet because the entire SNA has a guardrail. There's a guardrail. It borders on the, is it Percy Priest, I think? And you can't pull into it. You can't do anything with this cedar glade. It's a guardrail, the entire border of it on the east side. So I used to park when they were doing development across the street. Well, it's all developed now, and it's just private parking. There's nowhere to park there. So probably what I'm going to do is just have my wife drop me off with the backpack, and I'm going to go in there, find a rock, and do it that way. But what's neat about her is she rediscovered that Tennessee coneflower, and she's also the first woman to be a dean, a head of biology at Vanderbilt. Really neat lady. And she did cedar glades like you wouldn't believe. There's also she got the legislation, helped start the legislation for getting state natural areas made. And there's a festival every year at Cedars of Lebanon that's in her name. And this is what a glade looks like. You see it from the top. I mean, it's bordered by evergreens, and you look at it, you think it's just like a parking lot. No, there's extremely endemic plants there that are only there, nowhere else in the world, and that's why they're in SNAs and being preserved. And MTSU has its own center for studying these things. This is a little information about the cedar glade. I could talk a whole hour just on that. How it develops from a zone 1 to a zone 6, goes from oak and hickory to where you just got bare rock. And the reason it's a state natural area, look what's going on the bottom right. I mean, it's just the way it is. Subdivisions are creeping into everything. So what's my next POTA? I want to do I learned this on a hike we did. This has to be a guided hike. You can't go to it. It's the Mound Bottoms. Anybody been to Mound Bottom? Oh gosh, you guys got to go to Mound Bottom. This is the Indian Mound, and here one of the most famous. Oh gosh, this is right here. It's part of Harpeth River State Park. They have hikes 3 or 4 times a year. Take the hike in and see all the mounds. And if you'll notice right here, the mound is over there. This is across the river. You can't get from there to here. You have to leave and drive around. But I don't know if you see it. Do you see the mace? See the mace drawn right in the rock? It's over 1,000 years old. That's a petroglyph. There's a little hike to that. Signs around it saying, "Do not touch this." They really want to preserve it. The reason you don't hear about it much and they don't advertise it because they want to preserve it, but you're allowed to go there. It's public. You hike up there and you can see the view of the mound across it. But somehow I'm going to go up there and do a POTA. So that's it. That's what I do for POTA and how I do it. And please, I take criticism well. Don't worry. If there's a better way to do it, I am all ears. Any questions? There's got to be questions. I'm going to feel embarrassed if nobody asks a question. Go ahead.
Instead of a microphone, you could just take the key.
And I should be interested in that because my dad was Morse code intercept, but I just haven't. I guess part of this is.
Don't answer this, you could only get into trouble.
Yeah.
Being stuck in the house all day, I have turned, I don't want to say social butterfly, I don't know what you want to call it. I want to talk to people. I am stuck. I work from home. I'm stuck in the house. I want to talk. Remember what he said remember when he busted me about my points only being a single point? It's because it was voice. That's what I wanted to do. I didn't really know there were more questions. Anyway.
Questions? Paul's got a question.
Brian, do you have a list of all your equipment?
I have an inventory somewhere, yeah.
The question is, do you have a list of all your equipment?
I can make one real quick. Yeah, I can do that when I get home. Of everything that's in that bag? Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Question over here.
Comment. I would love to get my stuff down to the size of the pack. But right now, when we plan something where we're going to my wife's car, The way we plan it is all the POTA stuff goes in the back and whatever's left is luggage. So I would like to get that a little less.
Again, this didn't happen overnight. That backpack has happened over a year, and unfortunately I can't say what it cost because my wife's here. You know as well as I do, the radio and the antenna is not the primary cost of doing ham radio. It's not. It's a hard hit first, but all the crap you attach to it and do with it and upgrade and oh my gosh, see, yeah. So I try to get used equipment. I'm always looking, like I said, the radio. But yeah, I mean, there are guys that have this down to a bag that you can fit in 2 hands. But it's CW because CW just needs a paddle.
More questions? Looking around the room. So immediately afterwards, you are welcome to come up on here, and Brian, maybe you could stick around and open your pack a little bit and show people that are interested what all might be in there. Let's have a round of applause for Brian.